we're trying to drive pipeline, we're looking at not just AI from a production sake, but how do we leverage these technologies to action on data or drive insights from our existing data set that we have within the four walls of our company to help inform putting the right assets in front of the right members of our audience to hopefully drive revenue, pipeline outcomes, whatever it is that we're responsible for. So I'm excited to just kind of see how this evolves, in the full stack beyond just creation, but down to things like distribution and ultimately, net new kind of campaigns being created using some of these technologies.
Yeah, to build on that as well, taking responsive AI in the respect that we as sales forces or as companies have leaders that can articulate quantitative value better than others to exceed what they're asking for. And so what we've been able to do as in utilizing technology as a servant, not as our master, is to understand the synthesized data aspect of what we do. So as we all know, it's about 20% of our employees that do 80% of the work, especially in sales. You can see, for example, in real estate, there's over 50% of the realtors in the last 12 months have not sold a property. It's starting to wean out what we're doing. Imagine creating, just like we have dummy accounts, we can create a public, right now, we can create a public atmosphere. We have very long domains. We have Instagram, LinkedIn, all of these different places that are non-public but public, so that they fall within the guise of public information to use OpenAI. But I'm posting all of my raw data up on dummy accounts under David Meltzer, but they're hidden in David Meltzer because there's such long domains and Instagram things. Why am I doing that? Because I'm the best one in my company to articulate the value. So all of my employees have the capability of responding to an email by saying, please respond to this email as if I'm David Meltzer, speaker, author, entrepreneur, or legendary sports executive, or podcast host, or whatever genre it is. Or the salespeople are able to do the same things the same way. And so what we're doing is elevating the capability of all salespeople up to the highest denominator, not the lowest denominator. Not the, we joke around in sports that you're only as good as your worst player. Now everybody can be as good as your best player, because we have synthesized data of all the different responses, all the different callback information. Because as you guys know, there's such an enormous total addressable community today. The biggest thing for salespeople is just get people to get back to you. Because it used to take me a month to get in touch with 1,000 people. Now it takes me less than a minute. So statistically, I can get my entire sales force to double the amount of people to get back to them. I'll double my sales without them getting better, but also use AI in order to effectuate a better response. So we're looking beyond obviously what you guys are doing. We're really focused in on how do we stack on top of that response generation at the highest level by synthesizing our own data publicly, by the way. Not eventually it'll be private. That's what the technology will allow us to do. But right now you can take care without spending a lot of money by just posting.
So it seems like taking your own data, synthesizing that, and using AI to help people get better response rates, essentially, is what you're saying.
Or a clearer message or a higher value.
Clear. Yeah. You talk a lot about being able to demonstrate the quantification of the value that you're pitching, basically exceeding, the value, the cost of what people are delivering.
And just to interject real quick, I think it's important. People don't understand value. And, I'm the oldest here by far. I've simplified value. It comes down to this, and it's important, especially with technology. And only two ways to provide value. Give someone more of what they like, or take away some or of all what they don't like. So the better you are figuring out what someone likes or doesn't like, and the better you are at quantifying that value to exceed what you're asking for, your success will be exponentially in sales and sales strategy. So I try my best just to simplify people. Hey, what are you doing today with solar? What are you doing today in software? What are you doing today in blank? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Then you can ask, would it help you if, and get to that value quickly. Then by practicing, you can have a comfort level of confidence in articulating the quantity. Usually it's time, value, or emotion that you can articulate to exceed what you're asking for.
In terms of like, like, I guess turning a page to like generating content to create like inbound, that, you know, generating engaging content and doing that, what strategies have you guys found to be successful in what you guys are pitching or like bringing more to your personal brand, or just high level like strategy talk on that?
Yeah, let me give away all the trade secrets here.
Come
on, Morgan. This is what the people want.
All right. So here's, you actually have to take a step back, and you have to figure out, first and foremost, what do the people in your demographic like to consume? And this is where most people go wrong, because they like to think about just like, what would be the most entertaining thing? And you have to think about that a little bit, but you have to think about, where do people live and consume? I was on a conversation earlier today, and they were asking me, hey, Morgan, how do I know where my people live? And I'm like, well, why don't you just ask your customers where they're at right now? Like, instead of coming up with some science project, like, just ask them, and they're going to tell you, hey, 80% of us are on Reddit. Okay, so you probably should be on Reddit. Like, I don't have the crystal ball to tell you, but I can tell you that's the strategy. So let's just say that 80% of them are, let's just say 80% on LinkedIn to keep it easy. So now that you know they're on LinkedIn, now it's like, okay, how do we stand out on LinkedIn? What are the things that we need to do here? How can we get attention here, right? And so what I would do is look at what everyone else is doing and decide to do something different, right? And so I'll give you an example. Most of the time in our B2B SaaS space, or most of the companies that I work with, they do just like, hey, we're going to have this webinar, we're going to go through slides, and that's about all they do, right? That's not going to get anyone's attention. So I said, okay, why don't we create something interactive that people could come through and feel like they're a part of something? Now, this really works for marketing and sales personas. I don't know if this will work for some other ones, but I'm just telling you from my experience, this is just what we did. And there's a framework here. So now we created a game show, right? Where it was like, we sent emails to certain people. They would have to write a cold email. The audience judged it. We got reviews. People were excited. That's what salespeople want, right? And I knew that. And so that's what led to a highly engaged webinar, and a lot of people came through, right? So when you're thinking about engaging with your audience, you can't do anything until you figure out where they're at. Because if you create great content and they're not there, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Then the next phase is, okay, now that we know where they live, how can we stand out here, right? And then the next phase of that is, now that we stand out, how do we capture them to drive them to the next phase? Like, okay, we got them here, but what are we going to show in our solution or product that we can solve so that they actually are considering us to the next layer, right? That marketing funnel. So that's the way that I think about it in terms of a framework. The execution is dependent upon the client and their industry. And I don't know every single one, so I can't tell you that. But that framework, if you follow it, you will see more success. Last thing that I'll say, though, is what people fail, though, is understanding, what do people actually like to do? So, for example, if your demographic is like, I don't know, 50-plus-year-olds, you need to figure out what they actually like to do. What shows are they watching? What sports do they watch? Like, what are they doing after work? Because then you need to incorporate that into your content so they feel like, oh, this is something I actually consume outside of work, which most people don't take in consideration when they actually create the content. So that's like how I think about it.
One thought too, just to add on to that, being where your audience is, obviously, like, that is core to this strategy. Using content by asking, these types of questions, getting to know them better. One of the things that we're seeing happening too, increasingly, is, in addition to building high levels of engagement on these spaces like LinkedIn, Reddit, YouTube, and others, is an emerging trend, really starting from the consumer world, to actively try to deplatform those followers or those viewers from these other spaces into a space that you own. And this is, if you think about like Substack and what they're doing for creators, Patreon, and so many others, they're sort of saying, look, you should have this direct relationship with your audience for a few reasons. One, you'll no longer have this third-party algorithm that's sort of gating access based on, whatever kind of parameters they're setting. Two, in the event of some major catastrophe, which it sounds weird to suggest, but TikTok on the verge of a national ban here in the States, you are protected with this audience that you have now built. But I think kind of bridging into what David was talking about too, you're now creating this wealth of data about your audience that you own, about what topics they're interested in. How does engagement with certain topics actually correlate to some type of business outcome down funnel? This is now data that you're able to collect, mine, and ultimately use to make better content production decisions, or how we distribute the content on which channels, and ultimately bring some visibility into what I think for a long time has been kind of, I wouldn't say blind, but us guessing and experimenting, like whatever Instagram wants to do with this post, like we're at they're kind of beholden to them. So increasingly, I think on the business side, we're going to start to see this trend emerge too, where companies are actively building, what we refer to as owned audiences, and are using their owned audience data to help inform content production decisions.
Yeah, you two boys are geniuses, and I agree. I would add some different perspective to add on to that. So there's three words I like to think of. One is you have to define what engagement means to you, because depending on product, service, solution, or brand. If I'm Ellie Zeiler with 12 million TikTok followers, engagement means to me, will you continue to follow me and buy the shit that I wear? Right? That's not the engagement that I'm looking for. I'm looking, like you said, to the second word of understanding community. I want to own my own community, and so whether I get any comments on a video or views on a video, it doesn't matter, because I want the Shelly Ibox of the world, the CEO of Sleep Number, telling me I love your content, and me asking, well, follow me to your advice, right? So, okay, cool. You love my content. Where do you follow me? I don't follow you. I just I watch you on LinkedIn. I watch you. And I want to hire you to speak. So Ellie Zeiler gets revenue in her stuff by people loving what she looks like and what she wears, just like a model, which is great. But I 5 Shelly Ibox in a year is an 8-figure business for me. And Ellie might make more because she's beautiful and wears clothes. She might make more than 8 figures by doing it, but I'll never be able to do that. So I want people to really think about engagement, community, and then the last one is really important, which you guys probably know, is it's ambassadorship. So when I first started building my brand, Gary, we were at Super Bowl 7 years ago, and I'm helping with the sports agency, and he's trying to convince me that podcast, there's still opportunity 7 years ago in podcasting, and that although I'm 50 years old, I should Instagram. And he's, and I'm like, I don't care about followers. He said, what do you care about? I said, I care about engagement, appropriate engagement, community, but most importantly, ambassadorship, because if I can get 2 people a year that are true ambassadors, it's like the 1,000 true fans. But if every year at 50 years old, if I can get 2 people to tell everyone, hire Dave Meltzer, watch his movies, TV show, get him to be a coach, hire him to speak, read his books, whatever it is, if I get 2 people to get me 2 people a year and keep that up, just 2 ambassadors. In 20 years, when I'm 70 and I'm on my way, I'm beating my odds, but I will be the leader in the world of my subject matter or topic expertise, with 2 million people getting me 2 million people a year to engage, as you guys say, or be part of my community. And here's the advantage. The end goal for everyone that has this definition, all I'm looking for is people that will help one another and know people who help one another. And the reason is, through my experience in life, that if you surround yourself with a bunch of people that want to help each other, people that can help each other, and this is why people belong to country clubs in the old days, they have card games and church groups, is that group of people will buy from you and sell for you for life. And there's nothing more valuable than people who buy from you and sell for you for life. And that's my ultimate goal, building on every time I'm smart, I'm older, I let you guys go first so I get to think about it and add on.
Genius strategy. It's a genius strategy.
Hey, I like it.
So I feel like you bring up an interesting point around like ambassadors and champions, and like that kind of applies across like different sales movements. In terms of like setting up incentives and in terms of like relationship building to get those ambassadors and those champions, like what have you found has been effective for like ways you either like set up contracts with those people or just like build a positive relationship with them so that they will do that for you?
Yeah, I'll start on this one. So I've always given value for free, right? Just unconditional, give value. And then I've always had an overlap agreement, a non-binding, memorialized, codified, organized system that says, hey, if I bring a client to my dentist, he's going to give me a Starbucks card. Non-binding memorialization so that, hey, the only people ask me all the time, well, how much do you want, Dave, for bringing me a client? I said, give me what you think is fair. I'm motivated by who's going to pay me the most. So if I got five financial planners who want me to introduce high net wealth individuals, and one's going to give me 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, or 10,000, I'm going to give the business to the guy that's giving me 10,000. It's up to you. So, and I also don't want it to be binding. I don't want to get into, any type of scarce thing. We're here to help each other. And if you're not that kind of guy, and I find out all the time because I have thousands of these agreements out there. I do make over 8 figures a year in overlap agreements for the wildest stuff you would ever. But there is a lot of people, some are close friends, don't know how closed the world is. And, they're like, well, I did this $100,000 deal because you introduced me to them and they didn't pay me. Look, it just means I'm not going to do or refer you again. If I even bring it up to you, you may have forgotten about it, but it's just its own live creature. You're living in an abundant world when you have these overlap agreements that are non-binding, memorialized, and organized correctly, so you can just search them and say, who was that dentist in North Carolina? I can get $100 Starbucks gift certificate.
There's no way we could follow that up, Jesse.
I was going
you
to
might
say,
have to go to the next question. I have nothing for that.
Kaput.
Mike has been dropped.
I have nothing for that, so you might as well go to the next question.
I mean, I'm just happy we have David here, to drop those gems for us. Do you guys have any questions for each other?
Oh,
I got a question. Yeah. So there's so many multiple variables involved, and there's either ignorant, arrogant people in the space that pretend like they know what they don't know, or there's humble people that are like, dude, I don't know what I don't know. So for me, the biggest questions around what are the best ways to test and go, because the people I see most successful, like you guys, are just, you're really open-minded and great testers. And you're gathering information without arrogance of like, oh, just give us money, I'll build this for you and I'll sell that. The guys that know how to test and like, look, I'm learning as I go with you, and I don't want to waste your money, but eventually the vending machine's going to pay off. I'm just testing and learning.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I can apply that in a number of different avenues, whether my head when you first started was going towards like content people. Like you hear a lot of folks like espousing best practices online, but how do you know? How do you know that their thing is like the right thing I should go listen to? And actually, I think Morgan's got a really good point of view on that. But it's becoming so easy for people to create content here, and the bar is lowered from a production perspective, where we can just create content on our iPhone and blast it to an unending kind of group of people. And the truth is, I'm not sure, because I think that we should all, maybe as humanity, be a little cautious of when folks claim to have like the absolute answer to things. It's tough to probably know for sure if the loudest voices have the best advice. But I will say, though, I do think the other side of this is just as important, that if you're a founder, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a CEO, if you're a marketer, whoever, it's important that you do create, though. It's important that you maybe bring your humility and your humanity into how you show up in front of a camera or in front of a stage or in front of people, because ultimately at the end of the day, like, it's these emotional kind of connections that are driving relationship. And ultimately, as you talked about, David, at length there, was like, that's ultimately what makes, it's not just like good from a like social perspective, it's actually good for business too, if you can build trusted relationships. So I didn't give a direct answer there, but I would say, like, maybe the lesson in it is, as we as founders or CEOs are showing up, first of all, it's important that we do, and to check our kind of egos maybe to the door, leave some room for potentially having gotten it wrong. But I think keep sort of building, keep kind of putting in the reps to build that relationship with the people that are following along.
I'm just gonna follow up these thoughtful answers. Oh geez. All right. So I'm gonna go the 2 lanes that you went into. Okay. So let's go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the founder, and then we'll go back to the content creator, and we can get some context around that. I think all of us on the call understand. We were joking before we got on how hard it is to be a founder, and you don't really know until you know. Right? Like, it's just really, you just don't know until you know. So that test and go you're talking about, David, the way that I see it, I was talking to a mentor about this, is the way that you remain humble but also remain proactive is you have to be in market while going to market. What does that mean? What happens is most people, and actually I've done this before, so I'm also learned on my mistake, is they go to market, but they didn't talk to the market about what they actually were about to do. So they didn't talk to potential buyers. They didn't like vet things out. They didn't get like a sample size. They were just like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. Right. This is right. And that could either work really well or not. Where if you're in market, it allows you to really understand what's going on because you know what's happening with potential buyers. So every single week I have like a marketing roundtable. I get like 3 to 4 VPs of marketing, CMOs, and I say, hey, here's what we're working on. Here's our unique value prop. Here's how we're positioning. Rip us apart. Now, most people would not do this because it's not fun. It's not fun. I'm telling you right now, it's not fun. But you learn so much during these calls. And you realize, oh, okay, we're on the right path. Or, that makes no sense. We need to get rid of that. Or we need to double down here. And fundamentally, it's allowed for our business to move faster and also provide more clarity every single week. We're learning, we're iterating. And so that's being in market. Most people just go to market and they just say, I hope this works, versus I'm in the market and I'm testing these things with other people who are in market while I'm going to market as we learn new things. So I think that allows you to remain humble because you're getting beat up on the roundtable calls, but then you're going to market and you're realizing it's working. So that's the tandem there. In terms of the creator point, AK brings up a good point here. The barrier of entry to create content is so low. You could literally create an account and go make a video today, right? Like no one stops you. There's no like pay for like you could do it. And so someone could easily take a course, read a book, and all of a sudden say, I do X and I can do these things. And they could do a really good job of doing that. So what I always tell people is check the receipts, right? Check the receipts. So, okay, David's talking about, hey, I've done all this stuff. I'm like, all right, let me check the receipts, right? I would do the same for me. I'm talking about sales, like check the receipts. What has Morgan done, right? AK's talking about doing marketing, like check the receipts. But if you check the receipts, you see, oh, wait, AK's actually been a CMO, very successful in multiple companies. All right, he probably knows what he's talking about. Wait, hold up. David's gotten 100 million, lost it, got it back. Okay, I probably should hear what he has to say, right? So that's what I always tell people is check the receipts. Like you can look at someone's video, look at their content, fantastic, but always check the receipts. And then as you're creating content, we just talked about Gary, like he told me the same thing when I met him a couple of years ago, is like document, don't create, right? That allows you to not jump your skis and talk about something you don't know. If I came on here and said, hey guys, this is how I build a 10-figure business, I haven't done that. So you'd be like, wait, Morgan, what the heck? You're cool, but you haven't done that, bro. So that doesn't make sense. So you have to document and talk about the things you know with credibility. And the only time you could talk about something you haven't done is saying, hey, I aspire to do this. Hey, I want to get to this level. Here's some things I'm doing, but don't speak from a level of I did this, here you go. And if you do that as a creator and you document and talk about the things you know very well and talk about what you aspire to do, you'll have more people listen to what you have to say. So that's my 2 approaches on both of those.
They're the courageous 19-year-old life coach. Those are the ones.
They're always out there.
They got some good speeches. They got some good speeches. Yeah.
And they do.
I think trust and vet. Trust and vet. I like that. Check the receipts. Trust and then vet. That's the crap out of them. And I got something.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna just say, like, when I hear that question about testing and going, my background's in data science, so I spent the last 6 years at Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, doing data science. So I think there is an actual experimentation framework that you can apply when you're doing new rollouts or doing A/B tests and actually like reaching a statistically significant result. So just wanted to add that little tidbit in there. I think one of the things that you bring up, David, is around, finding someone who's done, who is in a position that you want to be, and, getting in and providing value. And wanted to know generally, like across the board here, how best do you engage? I know you say you try and add value kind of however you can with those people. Whether it's with those people or with, trying to make a deal happen, do you have like a story or anything you can share with us, of you doing that successfully or unsuccessfully?
Yeah, so just along these lines, my favorite 3 words are ask for help. It's the reason I lost everything, because I didn't have people that were sitting in the situation that I was in or wanted to be in, and I thought I knew everything. So you should be asking for help. And the 2 ways to ask for help are, do you know anyone that can help me, or would it help you if? Those are 2 ways within the context of teaching people to ask. People end up in a zero-sum game. The most giving, generous people we have, teachers, our moms, first responders, healthcare people, veterans, they all give almost their lives, but they don't understand abundance and why we ask. And so I have a story recently. One of the guys that I'm working on with this about the more you give, the more you're given. Elevate your awareness to what you're given through forgiveness and gratitude, but also feel worthy of receiving all that you're given, and then even ask for more. So instead of the people that give 100% and feel bad about, no, I'll only take 90% back, I feel bad. Then they end up at 0 because their new 100% is 90%, and they end up 80 years old like my mom with nothing, being the most wonderful, generous, kind people. Well, I told this guy, you're not feeling work. You're not living the infinite loop. You're not giving because you don't ask for more. Well, his daughter this last holiday weekend she has some difficulties. She's on 15 different medications and she had a mini stroke. So he's sitting in the hospital. I'd introduced him to a billionaire family in New Jersey where he lives. We're doing a mastermind at the mansion, but he barely knows them. But I told him they have a software that in 10 minutes, AI can analyze all the medications and tell you where there might be a conflict or something that's happened. And he's sitting there and he's telling himself, I'll wait till, after the holiday on Tuesday. It's Sunday. I'll wait till Tuesday. I don't really know them. I'll call Dave and ask him for help to see if he can introduce me to them to use the software. And, it rings in his head, hey, I better ask for help. So he ends up, introduce him in. He ends up calling the doctor. They get immediately on the phone. He's apologetic, first of all. Meanwhile, they get on the phone, give him the login, and in 10 minutes, figure out how the medication did this. And by the end of the night on Sunday, she's released. She's better. Wow. And he comes back to me and he says, this asking, thank you so much, my daughter, because I asked, my daughter has all this value, and so do I. I owe you for life. And same with the Knowlton family in Jersey. And I said, you don't get it. You provided us. Think about what you did for the Knowlton family. That's why they spent millions of dollars developing this AI, and you just literally gave them the best testimonial. Millions of people are going to hear this story. Their company, the doctors at the local hospital are going to want to use it. I go, you probably had made them more money by bothering them on the weekend. And then more importantly, you made my whole holiday weekend. I couldn't have asked for a better gift. You've added so much value to my life because somehow you allowed me to be connected to helping your daughter in a really miserable place over a holiday weekend. And, maybe even help save her life. Who knows? But this is the classic example that is utilized. There's 2 questions that add value. Do you know anyone that can help me? That adds value. And would it help you if? Everything I do is directed to finding out those 2 things, because if I can get that answered and articulate it well enough, to have that ambassadorship, the community, the elevation of the brand, and these guys with us today, they're experts in that. And I just, part of the reason I want to be here is just share a different perspective, because these guys are so talented that, just a simpler way to look at it and say, shit, I'm already doing that. Now now I can do it better because I get what Dave's saying. I need to ask more people for help. I need these 2 questions to be in mind, and I'll make more money myself. I'll help more people and have more fun. And that's really, as you know, all why I'm here, because there's so many, when I get on the panels like this with you guys, I'm thinking to myself, F all those old men telling me that, you know, we have an entitled generation below us. It's like our bench it's deeper than it's ever been. And we are so blessed to have you guys leading the way. So I just thank you so much for including me.
Amazing. Well, thanks for joining, David. We appreciate you. And yeah, we'll catch you soon.
Cool.
I'll see you in
Reach out,
New York.
you guys. I want to, see you in New York. I want to work with all you guys more. So reach out, please.
Absolutely. Cheers, David. Have a good one.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
So, Morgan, Anthony, I have a question from the audience for you guys. You guys ready for this?
Yeah,
I don't even know, to be honest, but let's get it.
let's give it a go. All right. So, in developing Evan asks, in developing a comprehensive go-to-market plan, what strategies would you recommend for effectively identifying and defining ideal customer profiles, ICPs, particularly in markets characterized by diverse customer segments and rapidly evolving preferences? It's a tough one.
I'm gonna.
I guess it's like, you
know,
know,
I don't know. I don't know. I have a commentary on this one because like that last part sounds very jargony. To be fair,
jargon. Yeah, maybe AI.
I'm being very transparent. That sounds very jargony. Like, what exactly does that mean? If someone's still, if they're here, I want to define that because I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
I want to answer it, but that doesn't. I just.
So I guess high level, like even with BookFit, I can talk about, right? There's like so many use cases for like, you know, video and video payments, and like, you know, one of our challenges is actually trying to pin down like which customer segment would be a great ICP for us to go after.
Okay.
And so I guess like, you know, how do you go and like test different waters and like maybe even set goals for like, hey, this like actually is a good customer segment for us, or we've tried, it's not.
Okay.
I mean, part of this is like, if I can borrow from Morgan a little bit, like talk to them, like let's figure out like, do they feel the pain? Like I think that's sort of like the starting point of the discussion before you get to like propensity to buy. Do they have budget? Are they empowered? But like, is the pain that you are espousing or that you are identifying as a early company a real thing that they validate and see themselves in? I think the risk is you're creating a product in search of a pain point or of a, you know, something along those lines, rather than seeing and identifying this pain and then wanting to create solutions for it. So if you want to sell to plumbers in the Northeast or whatever, like go talk to as many plumbers in the Northeast as you can. And, you know, hopefully that'll be the at least first step in identifying the ICP. And then, you can use technology and different things to build out an account list and all of that. But I think it starts with saying like, are we onto something here?
And so like, just quick riff off of that. Like, I guess even maybe you could tell like a quick story about Audience Plus and like how that got developed. But like, you know, are you setting up user interviews with different groups, and like, how are you incentivizing those people to jump on calls with you?
We did in the early days for sure. I mean, for me, like I wrote the idea on an iPhone note and then I screenshotted it and sent it to a couple marketers that were in my network. And I'm like, hey, like, just, am I crazy or is this something here? And then, you know, it's pretty good feedback. So I turned the iPhone note into like a Google Doc where I just wrote out like long form, not edited, not pretty, but just stream of consciousness. Like, what is this problem? Like, what would a solution look like? How does this fit with my existing kind of technology purchase decisions that I've already made? And then I went to my trusted like CMOs that I know, you know, that I've met sort of along the way, maybe call it 5 or 10, and ask them and say, hey, can you just like mark up this doc? Like I'll buy you a coffee, whatever, like, you know, or can you, out of the goodness of your heart, just like spend some time beaten up on this? And they sent feedback and we kind of went back and forth. And on the other end of it, I got what eventually turned into a pitch deck for a seed stage kind of concept. We ended up raising a small round, around that story. And then step one was going right back to saying, okay, well, let's go beyond my sphere of influence here and let's go to marketers I don't know, get their take on the business, get their feedback. Eventually, one of the things we did that I think worked nicely, and though Jesse, you guys are doing this as well, is building sort of an advisory program, which I know, Morgan, we had a spirited conversation about advisory programs.
we did.
On the record, I think it was published yesterday.
It did.
But call it basically like design partners. I mean, there might be a different way for it. It depends what you want here. Do you want like amplification, or do you want someone to actually like beat up the pain that you've identified and help you kind of shape the story? And so one of the things that we did along the way was also, bring some folks into the business basically to help us kind of craft the narrative, prioritize early features, give us feedback on UX, like that type of thing. So for us, it started with, like from the jump, it was all from the idea, being literally on an iPhone note. It was talking to people that could buy it, that would buy it, that would use it to get their feedback.
That's awesome. And so messaging out to the marketers, like that process when you went from like the inner circle to the outer circle, you just kind of started doing outreach to them and trying to get them on like, hey, we're building, like, had you already built something, or were you like, hey, we're building this, would love to like get your perspective on it?
Yeah, I was just like, hey, we have this, thesis around how the content world is evolving and just audience relationships, would love to run it by you, get your feedback. And, it was kind of like an outbound campaign. I just started going into like people that, Morgan, maybe, I don't know, tell me this is fair. Like we knew each other sort of indirectly, but like a chance, like I've really got to know Morgan a lot better kind of through our companies kind of now kind of talking about this joint problem. So I think part of it is like, you start to hear other voices of folks in adjacent spaces or just within the same industry that are also collectively like having these conversations. Some of the folks I knew, other folks were cold outbound basically, but helpful to get outside of your own bias too, where a lot of folks like want to help you because they know you, but then you can, talk to folks that don't know you that still can validate the pain and say, I feel this too.
100%.
How about on your side, Morgan, like AMP?
Yeah, I mean, like so I'm gonna be super transparent. I thought I had the answer from the get-go. I'm just gonna be super real. So I was talking to somebody about my idea and we vibed on it so hard, and then I was just convinced that was it. And then transparently, I think I should have been more intentional and patient and vetted out with more people. Because once I had that one conversation, I was like, this is it. And I just went like, I just dug in, right? And I was just like, let me like see if I can get more information. Let me see if I can get more out of it. I should have done that, but I just went in with this idea and this concept that I had. And so when I originally came out with the idea and I went straight go to market, I don't think I was actually clear enough in exactly how I was solving the problem or what the problem even was. So I don't think it actually got it should have had in the beginning. So once I was like, oh, well, that was exactly right. Then I was like, let me take a step back. And that's why I went in market. And that's why I give that advice. Like, I only really give advice on things that like, hey, like I messed up here and like, don't do it that way unless you're like obviously bullish enough on it. I would have taken more time and talked to more people like thinking about cold outbound and let me vet the idea. Maybe I'm missing something. And so now from an AMP perspective, it really is about like literally weekly conversations, talking to clients, getting continuously feedback. And now we become more clear and the message is becoming more clear. And I feel more confident. There's a support team and around that. But how the idea really started was I just looked, I mean, this is for anyone who's starting a company, but I just looked at what I had done my entire career. And I was like, what is something that I can do to mesh everything together? Like, what can I do to mesh like sales and pipeline generation and creating content? Like, how do I actually bring that all together? And I found that with AMP, it was through SME driven content. So subject matter experts, helping them create the content, external influencers, customers creating content. That was things I was doing in every company. When I joined as a rep, like I created content and I was a subject matter expert in that. When I was at another company, I was the lead trainer and I created content, and that's what led to our inbound flow. So I just already knew that. And I was like, can I replicate that? Sure. There's already a framework there. So it just continuously build off of that. And I looked at all the strengths that I had, and we continuously built on that. So I think that's what you have to do. But again, as we all know, as a founder, you have a North Star, but the path to get there, that's a different story. So it's like, you got to keep going, right? And you got to navigate that. I know the North Star, but I know the path is unknown every day. You know where you're going, but it's unknown.
How did you guys mamba your way into your first?
There we go. I've been waiting on this.
Where'd David go?
Yeah, I know. Shit, we should have gotten a Kobe story. We should have gotten a Kobe story from David before he left. I'm sure he had one.
Sure, he's got one.
Oh, he's gotta have one.
I mean, I think the part of the reason Kobe is such a inspiration to maybe Morgan and I both is, I think you got it right behind you, right? The mentality, this tenacity about getting better. And for me, personally, my personal story is, I'm a marketer. So I feel pretty good about, to your point, Morgan, what I know, even though that's being challenged every day, like the world of marketing changes so much. But I developed some comfort, I guess, over the years as a CMO, and kind of like knowing how to build teams, how to recruit, all that good stuff. I don't know how to be a CEO. I don't know how to work with product and engineering to deliver, net new features on time, and how to like build a sales comp plan, and all of these things. But I'm hungry. I'm going to get better, because I'm not trying to, thank you, Amanda. I'm not trying to, I don't want to do this 100 times. I want to do this once and make it great. Like, that's what drives me. And so I have to double down on my strengths where appropriate, but I have to like turn my weaknesses into strengths by being relentless around practicing and educating myself and putting in the reps. And that, to me, like, weirdly enough, maybe it's an only child growing up in Los Angeles, but that came from Kobe Bryant, like, and watching him on the court and his story. And I just sort of grew up with a basketball in my hand. And so it's weird. I think there's a reason that, that he, I think, has connected so much with people beyond sports, is, that's such a rare trait in our culture and in our society. And despite my best efforts, I never made it to the NBA, but I made it in enterprise software for some reason. And so I'm gonna apply that. I'm gonna apply that same mentality to the work that I do, because why not? Like, I don't, like I said, we're life's too short to like not try to be great at the work that you do and build something meaningful. And so that's why he drives me personally, at least.
It's a great question. It's truly the tenacity to strive for greatness and not letting anyone stop you from that. That's really what Kobe showed throughout his entire time, right? If you think about it, he came in the league and he was like, I'm going to do everything I can to showcase that I have greatness. And if you listen to interviews and the stories, it was like he was always about just continuously getting better, and there wasn't anyone that was going to allow him to stop him. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, like, the way that I think about it is like, we only have windows in time, and we only have one life, right? And the way that I think about it is like, why would you not try to maximize an opportunity to be as proficient and as elite as you can? Now, a lot of people may think that's like being a workaholic or, things of that nature, and that's fine. I just think that I just don't, for me personally, and the way that's why I admire Kobe so much, is that that's his mindset. He was like, I'm just going to be the best I can be at this thing. I'm going to commit my life to it. And not a lot of people will do that. And it's not for everyone, as he says. But like, that just resonates with me, because it's like, yeah, like what else would I be doing than that? Like, how I'm going to go be better at the craft. Doesn't mean I'm going to hide myself in a hole, but like, I want to be better at this craft. If I'm going to commit to something, I will. And so that's the way that I see it as well. It's just a relentless attitude. Like, I'm going to figure this out. It would have been really easy for Kobe, after winning 3 championships with Shaq, to be like, I'm good. Like, I don't need more. But he was like, no, I want more. Right. And so he did that. He progressed. He got better. He continuously improved. And so that's the way I think about it every single time. It's just, the mom mentality that's behind me. It's like, the improvement of one's life every single day. So if you have that mantra, it's very hard for you not to go and do something great. It's gonna be very difficult if you have that mindset. And so that's why I have it every single day.
Amazing, man. Well, hey, I want to thank you both so much for making time joining me. This was an awesome conversation. So yeah, hope to see you guys in New York sometime. Maybe we can shoot some hoops.
Let's do it.
I got the Kobe's, and that could be a good time.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you. Have a good night with the team.
Cheers.
Peace.